I had only brought a dozen books and I didn't know who to give them to. I had decided before coming to the event that I was going to be divinely guided, that I would just know who would be getting a book. So when Marley spoke her 333 and said, I want to be an Oscar winning actress, I knew I needed to give her a book because my 333 was, I want to make my books award winning movies.
I mean, I'm like right now, I wish you could see my arms. Welcome to the Relaunch podcast. And this is one of those rare opportunities that I'm going to take you behind the scene. In fact, I'm going to take you on somewhat a back to not the future, but the past of a recent event that I co hosted in Los Angeles. It was called Her World International. And there were so many incredible takeaways. And today, my goal is to act like you were a fly on the wall and give you what I thought were some of the most memorable things that came out that were inspired by 40 plus women getting together with the intention of connecting and inspiring and bonding around their stories, around where their legacies are going, around something that I call the 333 principle. Now, let me share with you why this has come to be. What has happened over the last 5 years when we actually were able to meet? 5 years ago, we were still having events. And then all of a sudden, pandemic hits and we're doing virtual events. And somehow we broke away from really connecting. And the old way, when we came out of it, of meeting people, of networking, seemed to not quite work anymore. The old way wasn't going to lead to the new way until 333 was actually born. And the way it came to be was the first three. If you think of a traditional type of environment where you go into a networking an event and there are people there, and maybe it's speed networking. Maybe it's, hey, try to get as many connections as you can in the certain amount of time that this event's going on. But what you find are people start to look at you and say, oh, okay, so tell me about you. Oh, what's your name? What's your job? What do you do? All these different things, the standard, right? We've all heard them. But instead, what if you did it all differently? What if we all started to do it differently? And so what we did is that we implemented 333 and this whole process, the principle, from the moment women walked through the door. I got up and I was able to share how powerful this is. And again, the first three is as women in our prime, let's say 40 plus, we're not thinking about a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. My God, like 10 years from now, who knows what I'll be doing? But a 3-year, what is the one thing that I would want that you would want to make sure happens that would change everything in your life? That if it did occur, this one thing in the next 3 years, your life would be different. Your business would be different. Your entire lifestyle of success would be different. And so that is the first three. The second three is all about what are the three dominoes, the three things that have to happen that you know intuitively, if you gave yourself a moment to really think about how do you make that first three happen? How do you do it? And all of a sudden you start to think, okay, I would have to have, and we'll give you some examples, but I would have to have certain people that would come into my life. I'd have to get more funding. I'd have to get more, I'd have to become more visible. I would really need to write a book. I would really want to double my team size, those type of things that you could be putting down here. And now the magic of what I'm talking to you about is that there is a relaunch here that is so significant because you're taking your personal power into your own hands. You are taking the power of connection, of who you're going to talk to, of what you're going to share with them into your own hands. We all say that we have stories, and sometimes we start with our story that we think is the best place to share what we are, what we've become. Then other times it's, oh, I just want to dig right into my elevator pitch, and this is what I do. But imagine you start with what fires somebody up. Now, this was an in-person event. So the first three was all around what is that one thing that lights you up that would be so crazy good that we want to make it happen. The second three, again, are those dominoes that need to take place in order to make it happen. And here's where the magic lies in the third three. The third three is, how can I, listening to your 3-3, how can I help you get there? What can I do? If it's visibility, I could help you get out there through podcasts, through TV, through social media. I could help with posting something about you through LinkedIn, Instagram. These are all ways for visibility. Now, let's say, writing a book. Well, I've got a publisher. I could introduce you to the owner of the publishing area. I could do other things that might come up as we're talking, raising money. I've been an angel investor for many, many, many years. I've raised personally almost $10 million from one of my companies or for one of my companies. And here's the thing. There are a lot of different funding groups out there. There's differences between the seed round, the A round, and what are the nuances that go with those. I could help in all those different ways. Now, you may be thinking, well, I could help someone in this way or that way. And here's the best part. It's this, you're giving to receive. And it's this idea of the law of resonance. I want to resonate with you and what you want so that I can give to you. It's the law of reciprocity. It's the idea around I me. You give to be able to have that wonderful feeling of receiving when you're giving to somebody, and we all know this, when you're giving, it's that feeling of like, yeah, that was really good. I did something really great today, and helping somebody with their business and with their dream. How good would that feel? So we're going to have a couple people come on in just a little bit to share the story of what happened in the room after they did the 333 process. It is remarkable. But I want to share another way to use 333 when you're not in a live environment. I do this with connection calls, what I call my impact calls. And I literally challenged myself to do 100 in 100 days. And these are people that are new to my circle, new to my world. And so having these calls, these virtual calls, now some of them have and are planned as actual live tea dates. I don't drink coffee, so we got the tea date thing going, but most of them are just on Zoom. And so how do you work with the 333 principle to really elevate and get people on a call in a very short amount of time to have a connection with you? And here's the way I say it. Here's the way I do it. And again, after just even in 100 days, 100 times I've done this, I know how well it's worked. And so the way I go about it is I get on, and let's say your name is Kristen or Mary or Allie or whatever it is, but let's just go with Kristen. And I say, Kristen, so happy that we are having this impact call. But in order to make it an impact call, I want to do something that I call the 333 principle. I want to understand what truly lights you up. What are you working on that you absolutely want to make sure happens in the next 3 years? And then I say, okay, and after you tell me that, I'd really like you to think about, what do you need to have happen to make it happen, to make that first 3 happen? And then she shares, and I say, and when you're done, I'd like to do the same. And then afterwards, we'll figure out how we're supposed to collaborate. I have to tell you, it works so well. I literally say, you go for like 10 minutes, I go for 10. And then the last 10, it's all about bringing the power of what you need, what I need together, and let's create something. And I mean, you talk about my process of tune in to elevate your energy. This is one of the most successful collaborative calls that I have ever seen. You talk about connection, inspiration. I get excited to hear, wow, that's what this person is going for. How can I help? Makes me think about like, wow, even some things have come up, and I'm going to share this, where when this happens, I'll be like, wow, I actually need to get back in touch with this person. Wow, I hadn't thought about that for my own business. And so then the magic happens and you just start writing things down. And I mean, 9 out of 10 times, there is some opportunity that we can be like, okay, let's do a joint elevated dinner. Let's do an event. Let's do a workshop. Would you be a speaker at one of my next events? Or something unbelievable comes from those sessions. And so when I think about it, and I'm going to probably go into a further conversation around this in another podcast, and please let me know if this is lighting you up. What I also really want to share with people is that when you are talking about yourself and your journey and your story, too many people try to put too much in to a short amount of time. What is the thing that really maps to what you're doing now? A lot of times I'll get, and remember, I've been doing this show a long time, 250 plus episodes. I have heard it all. I've heard all the stories. And a lot of times people have a tendency to talk about things that aren't directly related to what they're working on, or it doesn't have a connection. And me, as you've heard me do this so many times, I'll try to be like, okay, I got to figure this out. I'm like Nancy Drew, trying to make it all come together. And so when you can really focus, and I always talk about the hero's journey, that story method, the 4-part series, we're going to do a whole nother one on this, but make sure right now that when you go on your impact calls, when you have this opportunity to share and what lights you up, make sure that if you're sharing additional information, because sometimes, you go through it pretty quickly, you really got it down and you have more time, make sure you're doing what I call relevance relaunching. You're really talking about what is relevant to that relaunch and why you're moving into this next direction. Because if you're not, the person's going to be trying to put it together, not listening to you. And that's when you don't get as much out of the call. So that was my number 2 takeaway. My number 3 was a super cool manifestation event. And what happened was, a week prior to the big event in Los Angeles, I was sitting at my girl Tigo's big event in the Las Vegas area. And it was the Now Honors. And it was an incredible, incredible event that I literally flew in from Morocco late on a Thursday, got on a plane first thing on Friday to go and to be a part of this, to be a speaker, to be somebody that was giving an award based on winning the award the year before. And I thought, how lucky am I? And I was listening to somebody speak, and I came in a little bit late, and I heard this woman, and she was talking about about a book she had just written and how it had a lot to do with the idea around feng shui of your house, not just, like a room, but like the whole house, and how you can bring out success and wisdom and romantic relationships and all these different things. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. And all I caught was Marie. And we just talked up afterwards. Somehow we just connected. She sat next to me during the event. It was incredible. And we're talking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get your number. And so we exchanged, and I said, you know what, we need to work together. Like there's something huge here that needs to happen. Well, I get back to my room and I look at her contact information. I'm like, no way. It is the famous Marie Diamond. I'm like, you have got to be kidding. She was in The Secret. She was not only in the book, she was in the movie. I mean, all these different things that was just amazing for me, because that was life-changing for me when my mom gave me that book in one of my deepest, darkest relaunch moments. And so I texted her, you're not going to believe this. I think I just manifested this whole thing, but you're actually speaking at my event. It just got confirmed. You're speaking next week, and we are going to spend an entire day, an entire evening together, which, by the way, it happened. Everyone had disappeared. There was about a 2-hour break between when the event ended and dinner started. I came downstairs. There she is in the lobby. I get to spend more time with her. I mean, then at dinner, I'm like sitting 2 away from her. We're talking more. And what I want everyone to realize is the takeaway is that I ask people, what do you want from this experience, this event? What would be so huge for you? That intention of being able to put the 333 together. And the best part is that I use 333 on Marie. And what I said was, I am looking, and I'm sure you all know that we're doing a lot more of these pop-up smaller events where I bring these incredible experts on to have these incredible shake-up moments of like what's going on in all the different relaunch areas of your life. Every single one of them: finance, relationships, wellness, yes, menopause. You've got health, fitness, beauty. You've got, again, business, all of these, and bringing them all together so that it impacts and relaunches us faster. So I said, this is what I'm doing. She says, well, let's plan something. Let's do something together. And I said, well, what about with John Assaraf? And I said, if you could have anyone on this call, who would you want it to be? And she said, I got it. And she gave me a name. I can't say it yet because I haven't gotten them to confirm, but you know me, that's coming. And so that event, that moment in time made me realize that, you know what? There is such power in simplicity. There's such power to know that you're not wasting time. You're saying, this is what I want to happen. And as I said, we're going to work together. I had no idea that in 1 week it was going to happen. But that is the power behind this principle. So now what I want to do is I want to bring on 2 incredible women. They were both at the Her World event. They brought 2 different types of areas. One was actually, they both were speakers in their own right, because one got up and talked about what she's doing now, and the other one got up and actually held a ceremony for us that was really something that was beyond special. And so I am so excited to have not only 1, but 2. And this is where their 333 brought them together. All right. So now I've got these 2 incredible women who have come on. And I got to tell you, I am like from head to toe, like literally I've got goosebumps. And so let's start with Marley Jaxx. You were one of the speakers. It was an incredible timing is everything too,
Mhm.
because you went at all, kind of at the end of the last day. And so it was just like such a perfect, like, my God, everyone realized the power of this. And Marley, first tell us, what were you talking about? What was the content that you were going through?
Well, we started talking about creating content and building a business online through building a brand. We talked about YouTube, we talked about Instagram, we talked about how to create content with your personality that is fun and enjoyable, not a chore. But then we took so many little fun tangents talking about personal topics, like I shared my story of overcoming cancer and healing that naturally, and we talked about divorce, and we talked about all the relaunches that people go through in life. And it took a really fun turn with that.
It sure did, because somebody in the audience raised their hand and said, Marley, what is your 3-3?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you say?
I said that I want to become an Oscar winning actress.
In the next, how long?
Ooh, what did I say? I think I said
3 years.
Yeah.
3 years, because the first 3 is what is the one thing that you want to be able to do, that you must do, that that is like deep, going to make every change difference in your life. And you said in the next 3 years.
Yeah.
And what was super interesting is that we hadn't really gone down the path of this at all. Nobody would have heard this come out of your mouth unless somebody said 3-3. And so, interestingly enough, I'm sitting there on the couch and I'm like, oh gosh, this is a 3-3-3 moment, the third 3. How can I really help you? But we were about to wrap up. It had gone on, the max amount of time. And so we ended it. And I remember sitting on the couch thinking, there's got to be the 3-3-3. There's got to be that last 3. And it was at that point that Deanne, whose nom de plume of her book, for those that don't know, it's like an alias, is Rose Hope. She just beelined right for Marley. And again, Rose, what do you do? What have you been working on? And then tell us about this brand new book that just came out.
Well, this was so interesting to me because I need to give you a little backstory, because I had only brought a dozen books and I didn't know who to give them to. I had decided before coming to the event that I was going to be divinely guided, that I would just know who would be getting a book. And so when Marley spoke her 3-3-3 and said, I want to be an Oscar winning actress, I knew I needed to give her a book, because my 3-3-3 was, I want to make my books award-winning movies.
I mean, I'm like, right now, I wish you could see my arms. I mean, imagine this, everyone. And here's the best part. I had already talked to Rose about her 3-3-3. I had already said, we at this event will move this forward.
Yeah.
And she was like, is it the right time for me to go to an event? We're launching a book. It's probably not good timing. I'm like, it is good timing. And she sat there, and the two of them, Marley and Rose, started talking. I got to say, Rose, what did you talk about?
Well, what I did was I signed a book for Marley and I put, P.S., you should play the lead role. And I was just inspired to write that. I didn't even know if Marley was going to be interested or not. So I came up to her when you were talking with her. I handed her the book and I said, look at what my PS is. Would you want to be the lead in my award-winning movie series? Because this is the book of one of 3, this book. And so, and she was like, absolutely.
You know what? I've got to say, can you give us a little bit of why you wrote the book, The Arc?
So, this book, it came from my own near-death experiences. So this really started out as kind of an autobiography, like telling my story. And as I wrote it, I was really guided and told, this is not my story. This is the story of the world. And so I had a lot of intuitive gifts growing up, but I was raised Catholic. So I hid a lot of that. I stuffed them away. And my near deaths really brought this out in me. And so I started to go on this incredible spiritual journey. And what I experienced was something that was so incredible. My second near death, I went to heaven. I was surrounded by these beautiful energies that I know in my heart were angels. And so this book follows the story of a woman who has these gifts, feels like they're curses, doesn't know what to do with them, struggles to move through life. And then she has a near death and goes to the angel kingdom. And when she goes there, she learns all sorts of beautiful wisdom and spiritual tools to help her. So it's a really beautiful book. And I think it speaks to a lot of us who have maybe been, hiding in the closet around some of our own intuition, around some of our own sacred gifts that we have. And this is our inner technology. We all have this in us. And so,
well, I got to tell you, it is a page turner. The Arc is a book that from the second you start and the whole first part of it where, what happens, I'm not going to give it away because it's so good. I could totally see how this would incorporate in a woman growing up, becoming, this incredible character of your life. And okay, Marley, you heard her, and I think you're in the process of reading it right now.
Yes.
Everyone, this has only been like 3 days since we all got back, and all of this is happening, and it's all happening for so many of it. I'm as excited as if I were the actress playing a part.
I love it.
But Marley, what when you heard Deanne come up, and you never would have known that that's what she was going for. If you had met her in just a regular networking event, you're like, hi, what do you do? Oh, I just wrote a book and I, am intuitively gifted and I take people through all these like phases of, connecting with, what's out there, the universe. I mean, you wouldn't have gotten what she really is ultimately wanting to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened when she comes racing up to you? You're probably like, who's this woman like that's about to tackle me? And she's so excited to give me this book.
It was such a tender moment because when something happens that you had goosebumps. Kristen was crying where she took a picture being like, we have to remember this moment. There was something about the vibe, about the energy that was like, there is some kind of magic that just happened. One of those little, God winks gifts from the universe that we're all in the right place. And I just have a feeling that whatever comes from this is going to be amazing. And that, the fact that Rose, you weren't sure if you were going to come.
Yeah.
The fact that you came might be for that reason. Who knows?
I got to say too, I didn't really know what I was signing up for at the time either. Hilary was just like, oh, you need to be here. I'm like, okay. And at the time I was like, I don't know anyone in the film industry. I know no influencers, and so I was like, I don't know how this is even going to be possible. So I questioned that, but I trusted Hilary. And so when I showed up and all of a sudden there's producer and there's influencers like Marley, like I was flabbergasted because it felt like everything just fell into my lap. So it was very powerful in showing me the evidence of what is possible when we're willing to step into our dream.
Yeah.
This, I got to say, is why I do these type of events. It's the power of connection to such a degree to making not just, hey, the 3 days were, oh, great, high five, big hugs, this is awesome. But what 333 does is it continues the conversation. It doesn't just end with, that's great. Rose, great. You wrote about, oh, you're going to write another. Oh, Marley, that's great that you are, one of the top influencers helping people content create with YouTube and Instagram. Awesome. But like, how am I involved in that with you? And this 333 allows you to, I got to tell you, I always used to say the first introductory or meeting or this impact call, those are easy. It's now what? It's how do we do the second one? How do we keep this going? How do we stay connected? And so what now is going to happen is books are being read, conversations, funding opportunities,
Yes.
filming locations, all this stuff that I've heard you guys talking about that I are spinning around the airwaves. I have to say, I'm just so blessed to be doing these relaunch events with incredible women that really, my co-hosts are incredible, the speakers are amazing, and most importantly, the authenticity and the genuineness, if that's that even a word, what is it, the genuine part of people. Yeah, I can't even say it right now and I'm so excited. But thank you, everyone. But here's the thing: when you see people connecting like I did in that room on the couch where I was sitting right next to you, it has a different energetic vibration. It does. Very different than
It was
any
so
other.
magical. That whole day was so magical. Oh, by the way, I have to tell you guys, dolphins are one of my spirit animals, and those dolphins were going crazy the first hour of that day. I don't know if you guys know that, but they were jumping behind you guys in the interview and everything. So
People were pointing, and I'm up there interviewing, and I'm like, what is something coming in? Are there birds out there? Like, what is happening? And finally we were done. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is it? And I saw the dolphins. It was very cool.
yeah, it was pretty awesome. So
well,
to share.
again,
Yeah.
I got to say, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing the 333 principle and how, again, as I said about Marie Diamond, things don't have to take long time periods. When you think about the universe, there is no time. It can all happen for you whenever you believe
Yes.
it can happen for you.
And it's happening.
So we'll have to get you back on, hear the progress. But at this point, everyone, thank you, Marley Jaxx. Thank you, Rose Hope. Definitely go check out this book. You got to read it before it's going to be made into this big movie, The Arc. Again, I'm in the process of reading it. Marley's in the process of reading it. So far, I literally can't put it down. I love it. And everyone, as you're continuing on this incredible journey of life, think about relaunch love of what you really do, relaunch life under your own direction. What do you want? What is your 333? Share it with us. Come share it. Hilary DeCesare on Instagram, LinkedIn. Please let me know. How has this call right now, this show, impacted you? All right, everyone, take care and we'll be back next week. If you like this video and want to get more like it, head over here.